I will preference this video by saying that the numbers of the task are not necessarily in order and that they may change once we compile the entire exam that the student will receive. But for the purposes of this video, the task that we are going to be covering is the first required task for the Chapter 13 material, which is using Power Pivot. And so the students are asked to calculate revenue, cost, and profit for each transaction because managers are needing to know how year-to-date, profit, so 2021 compares to last year's profit, 2020, which we'll see is in the data provided. We are given some background. The student is told it is the end of 2021 and managers at this fictitious company, Bear Trail Mix, are looking for ways to visualize their data to make important strategic decisions about the future of the company, and that they're given access to the sales data from 2020 through 2021, and they have to conduct further analysis. And so for the purposes of task 1, we need to create calculated columns for revenue, cost, and profit. We're then told to paste our formulas in the cells so that we can see that they're accurate. And the ideal formula would be the most efficient, the cleanest, that gets the job done, but with the fewest amount of steps and does not clutter up the formula. And then our second part of the task is to compare profit by year. So we would want to calculate 2021 profit, 2020 profit, and then determine which one had a higher profit. Are we doing better in 2020 or are we doing worse than we did in 2020 as far as our sales are concerned? So this is the start file the students are given. Task 1, they're just told to paste the formulas for revenue, cost, and profit, as well as for their calculated fields, and then select from the dropdown which year performed better. And so we would go to our Power Pivot tab and open up our data model, and we see that the data is already preloaded for the student. We're given food sales is on our first table, some order dates, order numbers, employee numbers that were involved in the order, as well as the customer, where the transaction is associated with, which city and state, what was purchased, as well as how much. But our price and our cost info are on separate tables. We know that these tables are already related to our food sales because we go to our diagram view and see that those relationships are established. So that's already all done for the student. We're just asked to calculate columns as well as calculated fields. And so the first thing we're going to do is calculate revenue. And we know that our tables are related because we just looked at those relationships. So we'll start typing our related function, make sure we spell it correctly, and then go grab our unit price from the price table, close up our parentheses because we're finished with the related function, and multiply the price by the quantity in order to determine revenue. To have the most ideal and cleanest function, we don't need the name of the food sales table because that's redundant. We know we're already on the food sales table. We can see quantity is listed right there. And so we'd want to rename this column revenue, as well as change the data type so that we're specific and consistent. In our case, it already changed the data type for us. And so if not, you would want to format that as currency. And so the second calculated column we're going to make is cost. We're going to do the exact same thing as revenue, except for instead of pulling the unit price, we'll pull the, you guessed it, unit cost. And so we need to use our related function in order to grab that cost because it is on our cost table. I just went ahead and renamed our column first. You could do that first or last as we just did in the previous one. So either way, we get you to the right answer. We need to pull unit cost, close up our parentheses once again and multiply it by quantity. We do not need to name food sales there, although you could leave the name. It would calculate the same either way. Just this is a more ideal formula because it takes up less room and it would not confuse someone reviewing this work. They're already on the food sales table. They don't need that redundant information. The last thing is profit. We know profit is just revenue less cost. And make sure we spell it correctly. We do not need a related function because both of our values are on the table that we're on, which is the food sales table. So calculate our profit. We'll want to rename the column. You can also resize columns in Power Pivot if you want to see more of the data. Name that profit right there. Or maybe you need it taking up less room, you could make the column smaller. So the second part of our task, this is what makes it a more complex multi-step problem, is that we're also required to make calculated fields. And so we want to calculate what was our total profit by year. And so notice we use the word calculate. So we're going to, for our calculated function, we're down here in the calculations portion. We're not going to be in the table. And we want to sum up our profit. We want the total profit. And we're going to filter it on the year because we're told we want 2021 and 2020 profit. And so we're going to use order date for that. Not the order, but the order date. We don't need it to specify the table that we're in once again. So we'll put the year from the order date. And we want to set that equal to we can just leave it for our purposes. We want to set it equal to 2020. Notice that as you're typing, if you get any red lines, then that means you likely need more information or you have incorrect information. And so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and provide the name of the table. We calculate it for 2020. So it's going to automatically name it measure, but we want to rename that so that we're more specific. 2020 profit. And we need our colon to stay there to separate the name from the calculation. And we'll want to format this as currency. We're going to do the same thing, but for 2021. So we can go ahead and just copy our calculation, then change the date as well as change the name. Instead of copy of 2020 profit, we want it to say 2021 profit. We're going to change the date so it filters for 2021. You can also use one of Excel's time intelligence functions to calculate year to date because we're currently in 2021, but we are going to use the same step as 2020 to keep them similar. And so we're going to go ahead and just copy the formulas that we used and paste them. So Control C, go back to the start file portion of Excel. Make sure we copied it. Paste, expand our column. And we'll do that for the other ones as well. Okay, profit, the shortest formula. And we'll paste our formulas for our calculated fields also. If I just click in Control C and not highlight the entire formula, it would copy over this information 2020 profit, the 6,000 approximate dollars, but we're told to paste the entire formula. We'll go and highlight it, grab it, and paste it over here. And so what do these results mean? It means that we used Power Pivot to calculate profit for 2020 and 2021 after we made some columns and some calculated fields. And we were able to tell that the year with the highest profit was 2020. So managers might be concerned with the fact that their profits have fallen. They might need to dive deeper into the data and look at the sales information. Why have profits fallen? What specific regions of the country or products might not be selling as well? Which ones are selling well that we would want to sell more of? Because in 2020, we had over $6,000 worth of profit. And in 2021, we didn't even meet that. And so we were able to use our associated relationships in Power Pivot to quickly calculate this information, and we can create key performance indicators going forward if we want to be able to measure how we are successful in terms of either an absolute value or measures. And so that concludes this video. Thank you.